Maya had always been the type to push through pain. Growing up in a household where complaining wasn't really an option, she learned early on to just deal with whatever life threw at her. So when the cramping started 6 months ago, she brushed it off as normal period pain. Maybe she was stressed. Maybe she needed to eat better. Maybe it was just part of being a woman in her late 20s. But lately, the pain had become impossible to ignore. It started interfering with her work at the advertising agency where she'd been grinding away for the past 3 years. She'd find herself doubled over in the bathroom, sweating and nauseous, trying to breathe through waves of stabbing pain that felt like someone was twisting a knife in her lower abdomen. Her coworker Lisa noticed first. "Girl, you look terrible," Lisa said one afternoon, watching Maya grip the edge of her desk. "When's the last time you saw a doctor?" Maya laughed it off, but deep down she knew Lisa was right. That night, lying in bed with a heating pad pressed against her stomach, she finally admitted to herself that something was seriously wrong. The next morning, she called her insurance company, navigated their confusing automated system for 20 minutes, and made an appointment with a gynecologist in Chicago's medical district. The waiting room at Northwestern Memorial Hospital was exactly what she expected. Sterile, uncomfortable chairs, outdated magazines, and the faint smell of antiseptic that made her stomach turn. Maya filled out form after form, her hand cramping as she scribbled down her medical history. No major surgeries. No family history of serious illness that she knew of. Just a scared 28-year-old woman who'd been ignoring her body's warning signs for way too long. Maya Chen, a nurse called out, her heart jumped. This was it. No more pretending everything was fine. The examination room was cold, and Maya changed into the paper gown that somehow managed to be both too big and too small at the same time. She sat on the crinkly paper covering the exam table, her legs dangling, feeling more vulnerable than she had in years. There was a quick knock, and the door opened. "Good afternoon, I'm Dr. Hartford," said the man who walked in, and Maya's first thought was that he didn't look like what she expected. He was probably in his mid-30s, with dark hair that was slightly too long to be strictly professional, warm brown eyes, and a demeanor that immediately put her at ease. He wasn't rushing. He actually looked at her, not just at the chart in his hands. "So, Maya, tell me what's been going on," he said, pulling up a stool and sitting down at her eye level. That simple gesture, not standing over her, not making her feel small, meant more than he probably knew. Maya explained everything. The cramping that had started mild and gotten progressively worse. The bloating that made her look 6 months pregnant some days. The exhaustion that no amount of coffee could fix. The way her jeans didn't fit right anymore, and how she'd stopped making plans with friends because she never knew when the pain would hit. Dr. Hartford listened without interrupting, nodding occasionally, his expression serious but kind. When she finished, he didn't dismiss her concerns or suggest it was just stress, which honestly surprised her. She'd heard too many stories from friends about doctors who didn't take women's pain seriously. "I'm going to examine you and then we'll do an ultrasound," he said. "Based on what you're describing, I want to get a clear picture of what's happening in there. Is that okay?" Maya nodded, grateful for the way he asked permission, the way he explained each step before he did it. The examination was uncomfortable but quick. Dr. Hartford's movements were efficient and professional, and he kept talking to her throughout, asking about her job, where she was from, anything to keep her mind off the discomfort. Then came the ultrasound. Maya watched the grainy black and white images on the screen, unable to make sense of what she was seeing. But she could read Dr. Hartford's face, and the slight furrow in his brow told her something wasn't right. "Okay," he said finally, setting down the ultrasound wand and turning to face her fully. "Maya, I'm going to be straight with you because I think you deserve honesty. You have a complex ovarian cyst on your left ovary. It's significant in size, about 8 centimeters, and from what I can see, it's got some characteristics that concern me." Maya's mouth went dry. "Concern you how?" "I need to do surgery to remove it," he said gently. "The cyst is large enough that it could rupture or cause your ovary to twist, which would be a medical emergency. And while most cysts are benign, I want to have it biopsied just to be safe." The word hung in the air between them. Biopsied. As in, checking for cancer. "Oh God," Maya whispered, her eyes suddenly burning with tears she was determined not to let fall. Not here, not in front of this stranger, even if he was being kind. "Hey," Dr. Hartford said softly, and he did something unexpected. He handed her the entire box of tissues from the counter. "I know this is scary, but here's what I want you to hear. We caught this. You came in, you listened to your body, and now we can address it. The surgery is laparoscopic in most cases, which means smaller incisions, faster recovery. And we're going to take good care of you." Maya dabbed at her eyes, feeling ridiculous and terrified and oddly comforted all at once. "When would we do this?" "I'd like to schedule you within the next 2 weeks," he said. "I know that probably sounds fast, but given the size and your symptoms, I don't want to wait much longer." 2 weeks. 14 days to get her life in order. To figure out how to tell her parents, who were already struggling financially. To somehow come up with money she didn't have for medical bills she couldn't afford. As if reading her mind, Dr. Hartford added, "I know medical costs are a concern for a lot of people. The hospital has financial assistance programs, and we can work with you on payment plans. Your health is what matters right now. Everything else we'll figure out." Maya nodded, not trusting her voice. When was the last time a doctor had acknowledged that medical bills were a real barrier to treatment? When was the last time anyone in a position of authority had told her that they'd help figure it out? Dr. Hartford spent another 20 minutes with her, explaining the procedure in detail, answering her questions, and making sure she understood everything before she left. He gave her his office number and told her to call if she thought of anything else, day or night. As Maya walked out of the hospital into the bright Chicago afternoon, her mind was racing. She had surgery scheduled for 2 weeks from Thursday. She had a diagnosis that was both a relief and absolutely terrifying, and she had a doctor who for some reason made her feel like she wasn't just another patient, another number, another chart to review. She pulled out her phone and called Lisa. "So?" Lisa answered immediately. "What did they say?" "I need surgery," Maya said, and saying it out loud made it real in a way it hadn't been before. "There's a cyst. It's bad." But the doctor was actually really good. Like, surprisingly good. "That's something at least," Lisa said. "Listen, whatever you need, rides to appointments, someone to stay with you after surgery, help with your cat. I'm here, okay?" Maya felt tears prickling her eyes again, but this time they were different. "Thanks, Lisa. Really." That night, Maya lay in bed with her laptop, trying to understand everything Dr. Hartford had explained. Ovarian cysts, laparoscopic surgery, recovery time, medical bills that would probably cost more than her car was worth. She thought about Dr. Hartford's calm voice, the way he'd made eye contact, the way he'd treated her like a person rather than just a set of symptoms. There was something about him that didn't quite fit the stereotype of the rushed, dismissive surgeon. But Maya pushed the thought away. She had bigger things to worry about. In exactly 14 days, someone would be cutting into her body, and all she could do was hope that everything would turn out okay. The surgery went better than Maya could have hoped for. She remembered the cold operating room, the anesthesiologist's gentle voice telling her to count backward from 10, and then nothing. Just peaceful darkness until she woke up in recovery with a scratchy throat and a dull ache in her abdomen. "There she is," a familiar voice said, and Maya blinked her eyes open to see Dr. Hartford standing beside her bed, checking her vitals on the monitor. "How are you feeling?" "Like I got hit by a truck," Maya mumbled, her mouth dry as sandpaper. He smiled and poured her a cup of water from the pitcher on the bedside table. "That's pretty normal. But the good news is the surgery went perfectly. We removed the cyst and I'm sending it off for biopsy, but honestly, it looked benign to me. Your ovary is intact and healthy." Relief washed over Maya so intensely that tears sprang to her eyes. "Really?" "Really," he confirmed. "You're going to be just fine, Maya. Get some rest and I'll check on you later." What surprised Maya was that he actually did come back. Not once but 3 times during her overnight stay. The last visit was close to 9 in the evening, long after she assumed most doctors had gone home. He sat in the chair beside her bed and asked how her pain levels were, if she needed anything adjusted, if she had questions about her recovery. "Don't you have like a life outside this hospital?" Maya asked, her filter lowered by the pain medication. Dr. Hartford laughed, a genuine sound that crinkled the corners of his eyes. "I do, actually. But I like to make sure my patients are comfortable, especially on surgery day. It's kind of my thing." "Well, it's a good thing," Maya said sleepily. "Most doctors just pop in for like 30 seconds. "Yeah," he said quietly. "I know." The next morning, Maya was discharged with a folder full of recovery instructions, prescriptions for pain medication, and a follow-up appointment scheduled for 2 weeks out. Lisa picked her up, helped her into the apartment, and set her up on the couch with blankets, the remote, and strict instructions not to do anything stupid. "I'm going to pick up your prescriptions and get you some groceries," Lisa said. "Do not move from this spot." "Yes, Mom," Maya joked, but she was grateful. The pain medication from the hospital was already wearing off, and she could feel the surgery catching up with her. The first week of recovery was rough. Maya spent most of it sleeping, watching terrible reality TV and trying not to sneeze because it felt like her insides might fall out. But she followed Dr. Hartford's instructions religiously. Short walks around the apartment, no heavy lifting, keeping the incision sites clean and dry. Her follow-up appointment came faster than she expected. Maya was feeling much better by then, able to move around without wincing and actually starting to feel like herself again. She checked in at the front desk and settled into the now familiar waiting room. That's when she started noticing things. The receptionist, who'd always been polite but professional, seemed almost nervous when she said, "Dr. Hartford will see you shortly." "Ms. Chen." The way she said his name had a certain reverence to it that Maya hadn't picked up on before. Then, when a nurse came to walk her back, 2 other staff members stopped their conversation mid-sentence as they passed Dr. Hartford's office. One of them, an older nurse, smiled and said, "Oh, you're one of Dr. Hartford's patients. You're in the best hands, honey." It was nice, but something about the way she said it felt off, like there was a story there that Maya wasn't privy to. The appointment itself was straightforward. Dr. Hartford examined her incisions, which were healing beautifully, and told her that the biopsy results had come back negative, completely benign, just as he'd suspected. "So I'm okay?" Maya asked, needing to hear it one more time. "You're more than okay," he said warmly. "You can start resuming normal activities gradually over the next few weeks. Listen to your body, don't push too hard, and you'll be back to 100% before you know it." Maya noticed his watch as he typed notes into the computer. She wasn't an expert on luxury items, but even she recognized that distinctive design. That was a Patek Philippe. She'd seen one once in a magazine article about watches that cost more than cars. She shook her head slightly. Maybe it was a gift or something. Doctors made good money, right? But then there were his shoes. Leather, understated, but the kind of quality that you could just tell was expensive. And his dress shirt, which looked ordinary at first glance but had that perfect fit that only came from custom tailoring. Maya told herself to stop being weird. So the guy had nice things. That was his business, not hers. She left the office feeling relieved and healthy, ready to get back to her life. But as she waited for the elevator in the hospital lobby, she found herself accidentally eavesdropping on 2 nurses who were standing nearby, clearly on their break. "Did you hear Dr. Hartford donated another $50,000 to the Women's Health Fund?" one of them said, scrolling through her phone. "Of course he did," the other replied. "I still can't believe he actually works here. Like, the man doesn't need money. He's worth more than everyone in this hospital combined." Maya's finger froze over the elevator button. "I know, right? My cousin looked him up once. The Hartford family owns Hartford Pharmaceuticals. We're talking hundreds of millions of dollars. And he's here, dealing with insurance companies and hospital politics when he could be on a yacht somewhere. That's why I respect him, though," the first nurse said. "He walked away from all that money to actually help people. His family apparently disowned him over it." The elevator dinged, and Maya stepped inside in a daze, her mind reeling. Hartford Pharmaceuticals. She knew that name. Everyone knew that name. They made some of the most widely used medications in the country. And Dr. Hartford, her Dr. Hartford, was part of that family? As soon as she got home, Maya did what any reasonable person would do. She opened her laptop and started searching. "James Hartford, Dr. Chicago," she typed, her heart pounding for reasons she didn't understand. The results were immediate and overwhelming. Article after article popped up. Pharmaceutical heir chooses medicine over fortune. James Hartford, the billionaire doctor who walked away. Inside the Hartford family feud. Why the youngest son refused his inheritance. Maya clicked on a profile piece from a medical journal. There was a photo of Dr. Hartford, looking uncomfortable in a suit at some charity gala. The article explained that James Hartford was the youngest son of Richard and Patricia Hartford, founders of Hartford Pharmaceuticals. The company was worth an estimated $3 billion. James himself stood to inherit roughly $300 million. But at 24, fresh out of medical school, He'd told his family he wasn't interested in the pharmaceutical business. He wanted to practice medicine, to actually treat patients. His father had apparently called it playing doctor with pocket change and cut him off financially. Expecting him to come crawling back, he never did. Instead, James Hartford had worked his way through his residency like any other doctor, taking out loans, working brutal hours, and eventually becoming one of the most respected gynecological surgeons in Chicago. The article mentioned that he drove a 10-year-old Honda, lived in a modest apartment in Wicker Park, and donated the majority of his trust fund income to medical charities and research. Maya sat back on her couch, completely stunned. This whole time, she'd been treated by someone who could buy the entire hospital if he wanted to. Someone who'd given up a fortune most people couldn't even imagine just to do the work he loved. And he'd never once mentioned it, never acted entitled or superior. He'd just been kind, patient, and genuinely invested in her well-being. The thought hit her like a wave. Dr. Hartford had spent extra time with her, checked on her multiple times after surgery, made sure she understood every aspect of her care, and she remembered what that nurse had said about him donating $50,000 to the Women's Health Fund. Maya pulled up her hospital bill on her phone, something she'd been avoiding looking at because she knew it would be bad. The surgery, the overnight stay, the anesthesia, it should have been astronomical. But when she finally forced herself to look, her breath caught in her throat. The total bill was $43,000. But stamped across it in red letters were the words, "Paid in full, anonymous donor." Her hand started shaking. It couldn't be, could it? She called the billing department immediately. "Hi, this is Maya Chen. I just got my bill and it says it was paid by an anonymous donor. There has to be a mistake." "No mistake, Ms. Chen," the billing specialist said cheerfully. "Someone paid your bill in full 3 days after your surgery. We're not permitted to reveal the donor's identity, but you're all set. You don't owe anything." Maya thanked her and hung up, her mind spinning. $43,000 gone, just like that. And she had a pretty strong suspicion about who was responsible. But why? Why would he do that for her? She was just another patient, wasn't she? Maya looked at the photo of Dr. Hartford on her laptop screen, standing uncomfortably at that charity gala, looking like he'd rather be anywhere else. And she realized that maybe, just maybe, she didn't know the whole story at all. What she did know was that she needed to find a way to thank him. Or at least try to understand why someone would give up everything to help people he didn't even know. The question was, how do you thank someone who doesn't want to be thanked? Maya spent the next 3 days obsessing over the anonymous donation. She'd wake up in the middle of the night, staring at her ceiling, running through possibilities in her head. Maybe it really wasn't Dr. Hartford. Maybe the hospital had some special program she didn't know about. Maybe there was a wealthy donor who randomly paid people's medical bills, but deep down she knew. The timing was too perfect. The amount was too specific. And everything she'd learned about James Hartford pointed to exactly this kind of thing. Lisa thought she was losing it. "So let me get this straight," Lisa said over coffee at their favorite cafe. "You think your hot doctor, who happens to be secretly loaded, paid your hospital bill without telling you?" "He's not my hot doctor," Maya protested, feeling her face heat up. "He's just my doctor. And yes, I think he paid it." "Girl, that's either the most romantic thing I've ever heard or a complete violation of professional boundaries." "I can't decide which." Maya stirred her latte, watching the foam swirl. "That's the thing. I don't know if I should be grateful or uncomfortable. Like, why would he do that? I'm nobody to him." "Maybe that's exactly why," Lisa said thoughtfully. "Maybe he helps people because he can, not because he expects anything back." The words stuck with Maya long after they'd finished their coffee. She had one more follow-up appointment scheduled, her final post-operative checkup. After that, she'd have no legitimate reason to see Dr. Hartford again. And the thought of never addressing the elephant in the room made her chest feel tight. She decided she had to at least try to acknowledge it, even if he denied it. The day of her final appointment arrived, and Maya was more nervous than she'd been for the actual surgery. She changed her outfit 3 times, which was ridiculous because she was just going to a doctor's appointment. But somehow it felt like more than that now. The waiting room was busier than usual. Maya checked in and sat down, watching the flow of patients and staff. She noticed the way everyone greeted Dr. Hartford when he occasionally passed through. Respectful but also warm. Like they genuinely liked him. not just because he was their boss or colleague, but because of who he was. Maya Chen? The nurse called. Her heart jumped. This was it. Dr. Hartford was already in the exam room when she entered, typing something on his computer. He looked up and smiled that same warm smile that had put her at ease during her first appointment. Maya, good to see you. How are you feeling? Really good, actually, she said, and it was true. Physically, she felt almost back to normal. Emotionally, she was a mess, but that wasn't something he needed to know. He did the usual examination, checked her incision sites, asked about her pain levels and activity. Everything was healing perfectly. She was, by all medical standards, completely recovered. Well, I'd say you're good to go, Dr. Hartford said, pulling off his gloves. You can return to all normal activities, including exercise. Just ease back into things gradually. Don't try to run a marathon next week. Wasn't planning on it, Maya said with a nervous laugh. This was her chance. He was about to leave, about to walk out of her life as just another doctor who'd done his job. She couldn't let that happen without at least trying to say something. Dr. Hartford? She said quickly before she could lose her nerve. He paused at the door, turning back to face her. Yes, I just wanted to say thank you. For everything. Not just for the surgery, but for the way you treated me through all of this. You made something really scary feel manageable. His expression softened. That's what I'm here for, Maya. You were a great patient. You followed instructions, asked good questions, and took your recovery seriously. That's half the battle right there. She took a breath. Now or never. My hospital bill was paid, she said, watching his face carefully. By an anonymous donor. And I know you can't confirm or deny anything. But I wanted you to know that if someone did that for me, if someone saw me struggling and decided to help, I'm more grateful than I could ever put into words. Something flickered across Dr. Hartford's face. Surprise, maybe, or discomfort. He was quiet for a moment, and Maya wondered if she'd made a terrible mistake bringing it up. Finally, he spoke, his voice gentle. Sometimes good things happen to good people, Maya. Maybe someone saw how hard you were trying to take care of yourself despite everything and wanted to make it a little easier. If that's what happened, I'm sure they didn't do it for recognition or thanks. They did it because it was the right thing to do. It wasn't a confirmation, but it wasn't a denial either. And the way he said it with such careful distance told Maya everything she needed to know. Well, she said, her voice thick with emotion. Whoever it was, they changed my life. I was drowning in worry about those bills. I probably would have been paying them off for the next 10 years. So if you happen to know this mysterious person, please tell them that what they did mattered. A lot. Dr. Hartford held her gaze for a moment, and Maya saw something in his eyes that she couldn't quite name. Compassion, maybe. Understanding. Or maybe just the quiet satisfaction of someone who'd helped another person without needing credit for it. I'll keep that in mind, he said softly. Take care of yourself, Maya. If you ever have any concerns, don't hesitate to call the office. And then he was gone, leaving Maya sitting alone in the exam room with tears running down her cheeks. She wasn't even sure why she was crying. Relief, gratitude, the strange loss of saying goodbye to someone who'd been such an important presence during one of the scariest times of her life. She pulled herself together, checked out at the front desk, and walked out of the hospital into the bright Chicago afternoon. As she stood on the sidewalk waiting for her rideshare, she felt different somehow, lighter, not just because the surgery was behind her, but because she'd witnessed something rare, genuine kindness without strings attached. That night, Maya couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about Dr. Hartford, about the choice he'd made to walk away from billions of dollars to help people like her, about how he showed up every single day to do difficult, emotionally exhausting work when he could be doing literally anything else. She thought about her own life, her job in advertising, where she spent her days trying to convince people to buy things they didn't need. She'd been good at it, successful even. But had it mattered? Had she ever really helped anyone? The question gnawed at her. Over the next few weeks, Maya threw herself into research. She looked into healthcare accessibility issues, the barriers that kept people from getting treatment, the number of people who went bankrupt from medical bills every year. The numbers were staggering and depressing. She also looked more into Dr. Hartford's work. Beyond his practice at the hospital, he was involved with several free clinics in underserved neighborhoods. He served on the board of a nonprofit that provided gynecological care to uninsured women. He'd written articles about reducing healthcare costs and increasing access to preventive care, The man was basically dedicating his entire life to making sure people didn't have to choose between their health and their financial survival. And Maya, who'd been the direct beneficiary of that mission, felt something shift inside her. She couldn't stop thinking about how one person with resources and compassion had completely changed her trajectory. What if more people did that? What if there were systems in place to make sure everyone had access to the care they needed? She started sketching ideas in her notebook. Plans for a nonprofit, maybe. Something that could help people navigate the nightmare of medical billing, connect them with resources, advocate for policy changes. It felt ambitious and maybe impossible, but she couldn't shake the idea. Lisa noticed the change during their weekly coffee date. "You've been weird lately," Lisa said, not unkindly. "Good weird, but weird. What's going on in that head of yours?" Maya looked up from her notebook where she'd been doodling organizational charts. "I think I want to quit my job." Lisa's eyes widened. "Okay, that's not what I expected. Why?" "Because I want to do something that matters," Maya said, the words coming faster now. "I want to help people the way Dr. Hartford helped me. I don't have millions of dollars to throw around, but maybe I have other things I can offer. Time, skills, energy. I don't know exactly what it looks like yet, but I can't just go back to making advertisements for luxury cars and pretending that's enough." Lisa was quiet for a moment, then smiled. "You know what? I think this is the most you I've ever seen you be. Do it, figure it out. I'll help however I can." Maya felt a surge of gratitude and fear in equal measure. She had no idea if she could actually pull this off. She didn't have Dr. Hartford's money or medical expertise or connections, but she had her own experience, her own perspective, and a burning desire to pay forward the kindness that had been shown to her. She didn't know it yet, but her life was about to intersect with Dr. Hartford's again in ways she couldn't have imagined. And this time it wouldn't be as his patient. It would be as someone who shared his vision of a world where healthcare was a right, not a privilege, and where helping others wasn't the exception. It was simply what decent people did. 3 months had passed since Maya's last appointment with Dr. Hartford, and her life had changed in ways she never expected. She'd given her notice at the advertising agency, much to the shock of her boss and co-workers. She'd started volunteering with a local health advocacy group on weekends, learning the ins and outs of healthcare policy and patient navigation. It wasn't glamorous work. Mostly it involved helping people fill out insurance forms, making phone calls to billing departments, and occasionally holding the hand of someone who'd just received devastating news they couldn't afford to address. But it felt real in a way her old job never had. Lisa had called her crazy at least a dozen times, but always followed it up with, "But I'm proud of you." Maya still had to pay her bills, though, so she'd taken a part-time position at a nonprofit communications firm. The pay was less than half what she used to make, but she could work remotely, and it left her enough time to pursue the healthcare advocacy work that had become her passion. On a Saturday morning in early spring, Maya found herself setting up a table at a community health fair in one of Chicago's South Side neighborhoods. The event was held in a community center that had seen better days, but the energy was incredible. Local organizations had set up booths offering everything from free dental screenings to nutrition counseling to mental health resources. Maya was there representing Hope Bridge, a small organization that helped people navigate medical debt and find financial assistance for treatment. She'd only been volunteering with them for a month, but they'd been desperate for help and she'd been eager to learn. She was arranging pamphlets on the table when a familiar voice behind her made her freeze. "Maya." She turned around and there he was. Dr. Hartford stood a few feet away wearing jeans and a plain blue t-shirt instead of his usual professional attire. He looked younger somehow, more relaxed, and completely surprised to see her. "Dr. Hartford," she said, her heart doing an unexpected flip. "What are you doing here?" "I could ask you the same thing," he said with a smile, walking closer. "I volunteer here every month. Free consultations, referrals for people who need gynecological care but can't afford it." Of course he did. Maya didn't know why she was even surprised anymore. "I'm with Hope Bridge," she explained, gesturing to her table. "We help people with medical debt and financial assistance applications. I just started volunteering with them recently." Something shifted in Dr. Hartford's expression, a warmth that went beyond professional politeness. "That's really great, Maya. What made you get involved with this?" She felt her cheeks heat up. "Honestly, you did. Or rather, what happened with me did." Someone helped me when I needed it most. And it made me realize how many people don't have that. I wanted to do something about it. Before Dr. Hartford could respond, an older woman approached their area, looking nervous and clutching a folder of papers. "Excuse me, is this where I can get help with medical bills?" "Yes, absolutely," Maya said, immediately switching into volunteer mode. "Please have a seat. Let's see what we can figure out together." She spent the next 20 minutes helping the woman, whose name was Mrs. Rodriguez, sort through a confusing pile of hospital statements and insurance denials. Out of the corner of her eye, Maya noticed Dr. Hartford had moved to his own station nearby, where he was talking with a young woman who looked terrified. The health fair was busy all morning. Maya helped person after person, each with their own story of delayed treatment, crushing debt, or fear of seeking help because of the cost. It was exhausting and heartbreaking and somehow energizing all at once. During a brief lull around noon, Dr. Hartford appeared at her table with 2 cups of coffee from the center's refreshment station. "You look like you could use this," he said, offering her one. "You're a lifesaver," Maya said gratefully, taking a sip. The coffee was terrible, but it was hot and caffeinated, which was all that mattered. They stood there for a moment in comfortable silence, watching the flow of people through the community center. "You're really good at this," Dr. Hartford said finally. "I've been watching you work. You have a way of making people feel heard, like their problems aren't stupid or hopeless. That's a rare skill." Maya felt a flush of pride. "Thanks, I'm still learning, but it feels important. More important than anything I was doing before." "What were you doing before?" he asked, genuine curiosity in his voice. "Advertising. Convincing people to buy expensive things they didn't need." She laughed. "Not exactly changing the world." Dr. Hartford smiled, but there was something thoughtful in his expression. "Can I ask you something? And you can tell me if I'm overstepping." "Sure," Maya said. Her curiosity piqued. "That day at your last appointment, when you thanked me for everything, you were really talking about the bill, weren't you? You suspected something." Maya's breath caught. She'd thought they'd silently agreed never to address this directly. "I had my suspicions, yeah," he nodded slowly. "I want you to know that if someone did help with that, it wasn't because they pitied you or thought you couldn't handle it. It was because the system is broken, and sometimes those of us with resources need to do something about it. You deserved care, and you shouldn't have had to choose between your health and your financial future." There it was. Not quite an admission, but close enough. Maya felt tears prickling her eyes, which was ridiculous because she'd already processed all of this months ago. But hearing him say it out loud, hearing the conviction in his voice, made it real in a new way. "Thank you," she said quietly, "for being someone who sees the system as broken instead of just accepting it as the way things are." Before Dr. Hartford could respond, a man approached his station looking for help, and the moment passed. But something had shifted between them. They weren't doctor and patient anymore. They were 2 people working toward the same goal, just from different angles. As the afternoon wore on, Maya found herself glancing over at Dr. Hartford more than she probably should have. She watched how he interacted with patients, giving them his full attention, never rushing, treating every person with the same respect and care regardless of their circumstances. At one point, she overheard him talking to a teenage girl who was afraid to tell her parents she needed birth control. "Your health is important," he said gently, "and you have a right to make informed decisions about your own body. Let me give you some information about free clinics where you can get care confidentially, okay?" The girl left with tears of relief in her eyes and a handful of resources. Maya felt her heart squeeze. How was someone like him even real? When the health fair finally wound down around 4 in the afternoon, Maya was exhausted but satisfied. She'd helped more than 20 people navigate their medical bills, connected at least 10 others with resources for free or low-cost care, and felt like she'd actually made a difference. She was packing up her materials when Dr. Hartford appeared again. "So, same time next month?" he asked. Maya looked up, surprised. "You do this every month?" "First Saturday," he confirmed. "Have been for about 3 years now. It's the best day of my month, honestly. Reminds me why I got into medicine in the first place." "Then yes," Maya said, smiling. "Definitely same time next month." They walked out of the community center together into the late afternoon sunshine. Maya's car was parked on the street and she dug in her bag for her keys. "Maya," Dr. Hartford said, and something in his tone made her pause. "I know this might be weird, but would you want to grab coffee sometime? Not as doctor and patient, just as two people who care about the same issues. I'd love to hear more about your work with Hope Bridge, and honestly, it's nice to meet someone who gets it. Maya's heart raced. Was he asking her out? Or was this genuinely just a professional networking thing? She couldn't tell, and the uncertainty made her nervous and excited in equal measure. I'd like that, she said, trying to sound casual, even though her palms were sweating. That would be really nice. They exchanged numbers and Maya drove home in a daze. Lisa was going to lose her mind when she heard about this. But as Maya replayed the day in her head, what stuck with her most wasn't the possibility of something romantic developing. It was the realization that she'd found her purpose. She'd found work that mattered, a community of people fighting for the same things she believed in, and maybe, just maybe, she'd found someone who understood why it all mattered so much. For the first time in her adult life, Maya felt like she was exactly where she was supposed to be, and whatever happened next, whether with Dr. Hartford or her advocacy work or her own uncertain future, she knew she was finally on the right path, the path that led toward helping others, toward making the broken system just a little bit better, toward being the kind of person who didn't just accept the world as it was, but worked to make it what it should be, and that felt like the best kind of beginning. The coffee date happened on a Tuesday afternoon at a small cafe in Lincoln. Maya had changed her outfit 4 times that morning, which Lisa found hilarious and adorable in equal measure. "It's just coffee," Lisa had said over the phone, "with your ridiculously hot millionaire doctor who saved your life and paid your medical bills." Super casual. "You're not helping," Maya had groaned, but she was smiling. When she arrived at the cafe, Dr. Hartford was already there, sitting at a corner table with 2 cups in front of him. He stood up when he saw her, and Maya noticed he looked almost as nervous as she felt. "I didn't know what you liked, so I got you a latte," he said, "but I can get you something else if you want." "Latte's perfect," Maya said, sliding into the seat across from him. "Thank you." For the first few minutes, they made small talk about the health fair, about the people they'd helped, about the upcoming events both of their organizations were planning. It was easy, comfortable conversation between 2 people who shared a common purpose. But then Dr. Hartford, James, he'd insisted she call him James since they weren't in a medical setting, said something that changed the tone completely. "Can I be honest with you about something?" he asked, wrapping his hands around his coffee cup. Maya's heart skipped. "Of course. I don't do this," he said, gesturing between them. "Meet people for coffee. Make friends outside of work. I kind of closed myself off from all that a long time ago. After I left my family, after I chose medicine over the business, I just threw myself into work. It was easier than dealing with people who wanted to be around me for the wrong reasons." Maya understood more than he probably realized. People who cared more about the Hartford money than about James the person? "Exactly," he said, looking relieved that she got it. "But you're different. You didn't even know who I was when we met. You were just scared and in pain and trying to do the right thing for your health despite everything stacked against you. And then seeing you at that health fair, doing the work, actually making a difference, I don't know. It reminded me that there are still genuine people in the world." Maya felt her throat tighten with emotion. "I'm not that special, James. I'm just someone who got lucky enough to receive help when I needed it and I wanted to pay it forward." "That's exactly what makes you special," he said softly. "Most people would take the help and move on with their lives. You turned it into a mission." They talked for 2 hours that afternoon, their coffee cups long empty but neither of them wanting to leave. James told her about growing up in a family where money was the only value that mattered, where his choice to become a doctor was seen as a betrayal rather than a noble calling. He talked about his mother, who'd died when he was 15 from ovarian cancer, and how watching her suffer had shaped his entire career path. "She had the best care money could buy," he said, his voice heavy. "But I kept thinking about all the women who couldn't afford that care, who had to suffer in silence or die because they didn't have the resources. That's when I knew I had to do something that actually mattered." Maya shared her own story, growing up in a working-class, Chinese-American family where her parents had worked themselves to exhaustion to give her opportunities. How she'd chased success in advertising, because that's what she thought she was supposed to do. But how empty it had all felt until her health crisis forced her to reevaluate everything. "My mom always said that helping one person might not change the world, but it could change the world for that one person," Maya said. I never really got what she meant until someone changed my world. Until you changed my world. James met her eyes across the table, and something passed between them that Maya couldn't quite name but could definitely feel. Over the next few months, their coffee dates became a regular thing. Every week, sometimes twice a week, they'd meet to talk about their work, share frustrations about the healthcare system, brainstorm solutions to impossible problems. James introduced Maya to people in the medical community who could help amplify her advocacy work. Maya helped James see that his impact could extend beyond individual patient care into systemic change. They attended city council meetings together, fighting for policy changes. They organized fundraisers for free clinics. They became a team in every sense of the word. Lisa watched it all unfold with knowing eyes. You two are basically dating, you know that, right? We're colleagues, Maya protested, but even she didn't believe it anymore. Colleagues who text each other good morning every day and spend every free moment together. Lisa raised an eyebrow. Sure, Maya, whatever you say. The truth was Maya had fallen for James somewhere between the community health fairs and the late-night conversations about healthcare reform. But she didn't know how to address it. Their friendship felt too important to risk, and she wasn't sure if he felt the same way. Then came the night that changed everything. It was late October, nearly a year since Maya's surgery, and they were at a fundraiser gala for one of the free clinics James supported. Maya had helped organize the event, and she was exhausted but happy with how well it had turned out. They'd raised over $100,000 for women's healthcare services. James found her standing on the venue's terrace, getting some air after hours of smiling and networking. There you are, he said, stepping outside. I've been looking for you. They want you to come back inside for the final thank you speech. Can it wait 5 minutes? Maya asked. I just need a moment. James leaned against the railing beside her, looking out at the Chicago skyline. You did an incredible job tonight, Maya. This event wouldn't have happened without you. It's a team effort, she said automatically. No, James said firmly. It's you. You have this gift for making people care, for turning ideas into action. Do you have any idea how rare that is? Maya turned to look at him, surprised by the intensity in his voice. James, I need to tell you something, he interrupted, and now he was looking at her with an expression that made her heart race. And I've been trying to figure out the right time to say it, but I don't think there is a right time. So I'm just going to say it now. Maya held her breath. Meeting you changed my life, James said, not just because you're doing important work or because we share the same values, but because you made me realize that I'd been living in isolation, keeping everyone at arm's length because I was afraid of being used or disappointed. You broke through all of that without even trying. You saw me as just James, not as the Hartford heir or the successful surgeon. Just me. And I fell in love with the way you see the world, the way you care about people, the way you turned your own pain into purpose. He paused, taking a shaky breath. I'm in love with you, Maya. I have been for months. And I know this might complicate things, and I know there's this whole history of me being your doctor. But that's over now. We're just two people who found each other in the middle of trying to fix a broken system. And I don't want to keep pretending that what I feel for you is just professional respect or friendship. Maya felt tears streaming down her face, but she was smiling. You really have terrible timing, you know that? I spent an hour on my makeup. James laughed, reaching up to gently wipe away her tears with his thumb. I'm sorry. Should I have waited? No, Maya said, her voice breaking. Because I've been in love with you too, and I was terrified to say anything. You're this incredible person who could have anyone, who could do anything with your life, and you chose to spend your time fighting for people who have nothing to offer you in return. How could I not fall in love with that? How could I not fall in love with you? James cupped her face in his hands, his forehead resting against hers. You offered me something no one else could. You offered me genuine connection, real partnership, and a reminder of why any of this matters. That's worth more than all the money my family has. When they kissed, it felt like the most natural thing in the world. Like everything that had happened over the past year. The pain, the fear, the discovery. The work had been leading them to this exact moment. Inside the venue, someone was probably wondering where they were for the closing speech. But for now, standing on that terrace overlooking the city they both loved, Maya and James just held each other, two people who'd found love in the most unexpected place. They'd both started this journey alone, James isolated by his wealth and family drama, Maya struggling with her health and financial fears. But they'd found each other in the shared space of wanting to make the world better. one person at a time. And as they finally headed back inside, hand in hand, ready to continue the work that had brought them together, Maya realized that the real miracle hadn't been the surgery, or the paid medical bills, or even falling in love with an unlikely millionaire. The real miracle was finding someone who believed that helping others wasn't just the right thing to do, it was the only thing worth doing. And discovering that when two people share that belief, they can create something beautiful together. Not a fairy tale, not a perfect story, just a real one, with all its complications and challenges and unexpected moments of grace. And that was more than enough.